Parama Krishna Sachit Ananda Vigraha. That the Supreme Lord is Krishna, and he has a Vigraha, or form or body, that is composed of Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Sat means eternal. The Lord is eternal. We have these temporary material bodies. They are not eternal. But we, the soul, living within the body, having accepted this temporary material body, are also eternal. We share that same quality with God. So that's called Sat. And then Chit, which means the potency of knowledge. So the Lord himself, he is possessed of superior intelligence to anyone and everyone. No one is equal to him, or no one is greater than him. In Sanskrit, that's called asamurdva. So no one comes close and no one exceeds him. So his intelligence is incredibly vast. But we also have this chit potency within us, this desire to know. And so sometimes that's referred to as the search for the truth, the search for meaning. And then the last component, Sat, Chit, and Ananda, the pleasure potency. We are always seeking pleasure. Unfortunately, we are misidentifying with this material body, and we're trying to seek pleasure through the senses, which is actually an impediment to our experiencing real pleasure, and it is also an impediment to our understanding our true nature. So what is our true nature? In Sanskrit, that is called dharma. Sometimes the definition is given loosely that dharma means religion. But dharma has a different connotation that the English word religion does not convey. And dharma is that quality or aspect of one's nature that is inseparable from one. So what is that dharma? What is that quality that we have that we cannot separate from ourselves? And that is the propensity to render service, to serve others, or to serve ourselves, to serve our senses, for example. Everyone is running around very busily trying to serve their senses, generally speaking, in this temporary world. And everyone is misidentifying with their body, and therefore trying to serve the mind and the senses. The mind is actually the chief of all the senses. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Uddhava Gita, Krishna is telling Uddhava that the mind is such a powerful sense that it is almost godlike in its power to control and influence the living entity. But Bhagavad Gita teaches us something different, that we are not servants of the dictates of the mind, that actually we have to learn to become the masters of the mind, to control the mind, control the senses, and not allow them to dictate to us what is the proper path. One very nice thing about Bhagavad Gita, there are so many wonderful things about Bhagavad Gita. It instructs us that this path of Krishna consciousness teaches us what ought to be done and what ought not to be done. Now, in contemporary civilization, many people would find that offensive. What ought to be done? What do you mean, what ought to be done? I just do whatever the hell I want. And if you try to tell me, then you are bogus. Right? Do your own thing. That is the real meaning. So that is not activity or thinking or direction that is based on knowledge. So what constitutes real knowledge? What constitutes the truth? In the Mahabharata, that's referred to. Dharmasya tattvam nihitam guhayam mahajano yena gata sapantaha. That real understanding of the truth and dharma, dharmasya tattvam, tattva means truth, it is actually hidden in the hearts of the unadulterated, self-realized persons, who, as we know from Bhagavad Gita, are extremely rare. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. Such great souls who are fully realized are very rare. Nonetheless, despite that, Krishna instructs us in the 4th chapter of the Gita, verse number 34, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master who is Jnaninas Tattva Darshinaha. Darshan means to see. Tattva Darshan, one who is seeing the truth, which is another way of saying one who knows the truth, one who understands the truth. And such persons who understand the truth, they can impart that knowledge unto you. Upadekshanti te jnanam. They can initiate you into the mystery of understanding the truth. Jnaninas tattva darshinaha, because they are seeing the truth. So this is a very important understanding that is given by Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, who speaks the Bhagavad Gita. And when God speaks, it's not just empty words, or he's just not speculating, but there's gravity and depth and layers of meaning that go deeper and deeper and deeper. And in order to understand the truth, to penetrate the mysteries of the truth, which is not self-evident and not easily available, then one has to approach a spiritual master who knows the truth. Such a person is Srila Prabhupada, who has given us the entire Vedic paradigm in English. They're very fortunate for us because mostly we do not speak or understand Sanskrit. And even then, some of the concepts may elude us. Why is that? Why would we not understand something properly? Because we are not purified in our heart. This is also a secret that Vedic knowledge reveals. Chanakya Pandit describes a learned person. What is a learned person? He sees others' possessions as garbage in the street. In other words, as having no value for himself. Like in the Bible, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. It's a good example of a not learned person. But a true learned person, he is not interested in anything material from anybody for his own benefit. And a true learned person sees the sufferings of others as if they were his own suffering. And then we all have experience of suffering. So if we're truly learned and we see someone else suffering, we can identify with that. I've been there. I've done that. I've been through that suffering, or something quite similar. Or maybe it's so terrible that I can't imagine having to endure that. The Buddhists very much like to fix on this concept of compassion. That is to their credit, because they're following their teacher, Lord Buddha, who was compassionate upon everyone and wanted to give them enlightenment. And then what is there are 3 qualifications. So what's the 3rd qualification? Is that he sees every woman except his own wife as mother. So what does it mean to see all the ladies in the world as mother? Hey, I'm hungry. Can you fix me something to eat, Mom? Right? But no, it means that in the Vedic culture and in many cultures around the world, the mother is given the utmost respect and love and service because she has given one the body that one has, and that she has carefully nurtured and raised the child. So the mother is a very high position. Indeed, Srila Prabhupada used to say that the love of the mother for the child is the closest thing you can find in material relationships to pure spiritual love, the love of the soul for God, which is not motivated by personal sense gratification. I know in Turkish, they have this saying, the mother says of children, "I would die for you." They say like that. So they'll do anything for the child, even give up their own life, sacrifice everything. And we know that when many immigrants come to the United States from different cultures, the parents will work, 3 jobs, 24 hours a day, in order to give their children a chance, the chance that they didn't have to be successful. Many times we see the immigrants come and they may be refugees, and in their own country they may have been very learned people, leaders, and they come here and they're, washing dishes in the restaurant or picking fruit in the fields. Or there was a statement made that I came across recently. Have you ever seen a white person picking fruit in the field? Don't want to do it. It's the immigrants. They come, they'll do anything to get ahead because of their love for their children. They want their children to have a better life. So that is a very powerful kind of love. And the learned person, he sees every woman as mother. That means it is not for my enjoyment. It is not for me to enjoy. Again, that statement, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife," that's given in the Bible. That actually comes from the Vedic culture. So you notice these definitions, these qualifications of the learned person has nothing to do with, oh, he read so many books, he's got so many degrees, he is so educated. No, the true learned person, all the qualifications therein are moral qualifications based on understanding the truth. And that is the real definition of a learned person, according to the Vedic standard. So what is this Vedic thing, this Vedic standard that we're talking about? What are the Vedas? The Vedas are expositions of spiritual knowledge of the truth that are given by the Lord to human society. That's explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. Navai or vidya, was it Rishi? I forget. Navai or Rishi Devata. That all the demigods and the siddhas and the asuras and the chiefs among all the different planetary systems, they all recognize that dharmam tu sakshat, that real religious truth, is that which is given by the Lord directly. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita, that is the knowledge that is given to us directly by Krishna. He is speaking to his friend and disciple Arjuna, but he's not only speaking to Arjuna. Those who are expert in Sanskrit grammar take Arjuna to mean sarva jana. Sarva means all. Jana means people. So he is not only receiving the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, but it's being given for the benefit of the whole world. We're very fortunate that conversation was recorded and is still available to us today, even in the 21st century modern crazy world that we live in. This timeless wisdom that's given by the Lord is right there in the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Is there someone here that does not possess a copy of the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada? preaching to the choir. And very soon the choir just had their chance. They'll get another chance here in a few minutes during the arti to strike up a tune for the glorification of Krishna. So the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas is not something that's created by human intelligence. In Sanskrit, it's called apaurushaya. It's superhuman. It's beyond the capability of any human being to speak the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's not an ordinary human being. He's the Supreme Lord. And he comes like an actor in a play and plays the part of a human being in the great drama that is the Mahabharata, which is considered to be the fifth Veda. And the Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses contained in the midst of the Mahabharata. So actually that is the whole reason for the Mahabharata. It has many fascinating stories of the royal families and their intrigues, the drama, the adventure, the romance, the competitive spirit, the fighting takes place. There's a great battle in which millions of soldiers participate and are killed. Very exciting. But the crown jewel that is hidden within the Mahabharata is those 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna speaks on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Not only to Arjuna, but within the earshot of all the other soldiers too. They weren't just sitting there, sharpening their swords, going, come on, which is right before the battle begins. But everyone is tuned in. What is Krishna saying? Of course, those who are demoniac, they want to kill Krishna, they're not tuning in. But there was a lot of tuning in going on while Krishna was speaking. And still today, some 5,000 years later, we can tune in. And Bhagavad Gita is so wonderful that every time you read what Krishna says in Gita and the commentary given by Srila Prabhupada, you get new and deeper understanding. It's an amazing phenomenon. Try it sometime. But Gandhi used to read Gita daily. And he said, when I read Gita daily, every day I get new insights. I see new lights. I get greater understanding. Well, Gita hasn't changed, but neither is Gita static. Gita is very deep and very meaningful. So the Krishna consciousness movement is based on following the instructions that Krishna has given in the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says, we have created nothing with our tiny fertile brains. Srila Prabhupada can really turn a phrase. Our tiny fertile brains. Generally, we think our brains are not very tiny, but they certainly are fertile. And sometimes people like to interpret the Bhagavad Gita and obscure the meaning of the Gita in different ways. And Prabhupada says, if you want to do that, just write your own book. Don't take Gita in one hand and then preach some nonsense philosophy that you've created. It has nothing to do with Gita. I even know one devotee who during the Vietnam War, he presented before the draft board a paper written based on Bhagavad Gita that he could not fight because he was following the religion of Gita. He could not fight for his country. And the draft board accepted it. Well, they did not read the Gita. Gita takes place on the battlefield. And in the Gita, Krishna is exhorting Arjuna to get up off his duff and fight as devotional service to him. So fortunately, the draft board did not read the Gita, and they let him out of his selective service because he was 1A. But they let him go. You're a follower of some religion and you're not supposed, you believe in nonviolence, which is completely bogus, it's not true, then you do not have to fight. Actually, it reminds me of another story of a devotee who, this is probably 1969 or so, got called up to the draft board in New York City. It was Hasyagrami. You ever heard Hasyagrami tell the story? Yeah. So he was wearing a tie-dyed dhoti. Devotees were just coming out of their hippie-dom in those days. And he had a picture of Lord Jagannath. You know, Lord Jagannath with the big eyes. And he had his beads and he was chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And so they were trying to process him at the draft board, but it wasn't very cooperative. He was chanting and looking at that picture. And they didn't know what to do with him, wearing this strange get-up, shaved head, and Sika, tilak. And Hare Krishna movement was new in those days. So they sent him to the shrink, to the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist was quizzing him, and everything Hasyagrami would answer would be a verse from the Gita or a quote from Srila Prabhupada. But it was all, from the apparent common sense point of view of the psychiatrist, it was all completely out of context, and it made no sense at all. He was like a crazy man. And then he says, I hear you mumbling. What are you mumbling? He said, I'm chanting Hare Krishna so that I don't fall into my Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, looking right at the psychiatrist. And then he'd be looking at the picture of Lord Jagannath, Hare Krishna. And he said, well, what is that you're looking at? He said, it's a picture of God. The psychiatrist was like, oh yeah? Let me see it. So he showed him the picture of Lord Jagannath, close-up picture of Lord Jagannath with his big eyes, his painted feature. He saw that and he went, oh, here, take it. Okay, unfit. So he was able to use his strict adherence to Krishna consciousness to avoid getting his head blown off in Vietnam. There was a song, actually, called The Draft Dodger's Rag. It's a little off topic, but would you like to hear the words to that song? Sure. See, that's proof. Everyone wants to know. You hold something in your hand. What is it? I want to know. Let me see. Let me hear it. What is the song? Sarge, I'm only 18. I got a ruptured spleen and I always carry a purse. I got eyes like a bat. My feet are flat. My asthma's getting worse. Consider my career, my sweetheart dear, my poor old invalid aunt. Besides, I ain't no fool. I'm going to school and I'm working in the defense plant. That was the Draft Dodger's Rag. Or Sarge, I'm looking at a picture of God and I'm chanting the holy names to keep from falling into the illusion of Maya. It's like, okay, you can go. We don't need you in this country's army. So what is the symptom of one who becomes purified through hearing and chanting? This is explained in the second chapter. Of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a very nice series of verses worthy of close study that explain about the effects of hearing and chanting the Krishna Katha, or the subject matter of Krishna. There's two types of Krishna Katha. One Krishna Katha is that which is spoken by Krishna, like Bhagavad Gita. Another Krishna Katha is that which is spoken about Krishna, the Srimad Bhagavatam specifically. So the Bhagavatam says, Evam prasana manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha, that a person who has come in contact with devotional service through hearing and chanting and acting in Krishna consciousness, evam prasana manaso, the mind, manasa, becomes prasana, very happy, very blissful. Bhagavad bhakti yogataha, by connecting to Bhagavan, or God, through yoga, the yoga of love and devotion. And then the next line, one of the all-time great lines in any language, but especially in the Sanskrit, Bhagavat Tat Vivigyanam. that by becoming purified and engaging in hearing and chanting, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. Jnana means knowledge, and Vijnana means realization. And Prabhupada translates this as one gains positive scientific knowledge of Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead. That is self-realization. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. You realize the truth. This is also mentioned by Krishna in the 9th chapter of the Gita. Pratyak Savagamam Dharmyam. This truth of understanding one's dharma as a servant of God. Pratyak, you experience it directly. I was always interested in the search for truth when I was a teenager, up to a certain point. And I interacted with people of different faiths, thinking that the truth must be in religion, the truth must be God. And that's true. But I wasn't getting any pratyak savagamam dharmyam. I wasn't getting direct perception of the self by realization in their association. And I became disillusioned, cynical. Imagine that, me being cynical. How is it possible? And I gave up all hope of ever finding the truth. I quit looking. But deep in my heart, there was a desire to know the truth. And my speculations weren't really getting me anywhere, nor my esoteric readings and smatterings of philosophy and science fiction. But then Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam were literally dropped into my lap as if coming from the sky without my looking for it. And suddenly, after reading Srila Prabhupada's books, I realized, oh, this is the truth. This is what I was always looking for and couldn't find, and didn't think really existed. There was no truth. That's what the demoniac class of people think. Asatyam apratishtam te jagadadhur anishwar. They think there's no God. Neither cleanliness, nor truth, nor proper behavior is found in them. This is all described in the Bhagavad Gita. So I was influenced by that. But then Prabhupada's books came into my hands, and I began to read. And then I immediately understood, well, this is not like what I've encountered before. This is the truth. This is what I always wanted to know. Here's the truth. So if you want to know the truth, chant Hare Krishna, take prasad, food offered to Krishna with love and devotion. I'll be in the next room after the kirtan, and we'll make sure you get your prasadam. And read Prabhupada's books, associate with devotees, learn the science of Krishna, and then you can become evam prasanna manaso. You can become very happy within your mind due to contact with Lord Krishna through the great science of bhakti yoga. All right, so we'll stop here. And thank you all very much for paying attention, or not, as it were. That's fine. Srila Prabhupada said that he was hearing from his spiritual master. And sometimes Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, a very highly evolved, Prabhupada called him a Vaikuntha man, coming directly from the spiritual world. And he was such a great scholar that a lot of people couldn't understand what he was saying. And Prabhupada said, sometimes I could not understand what he was saying, but I went on patiently hearing. Then later, when the devotees in Allahabad, where Prabhupada was living, said, we want to recommend this Abhay Babu for initiation. And Prabhupada said, oh, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada said, Oh yes, I have marked him. He likes to hear. He does not go away. Because he had attended some lectures in Vrindavan, on the Vrindavan Park. So he likes to hear, he does not go away. So that is the secret of success. We have to hear, hopefully we'll like to hear, and then, very important, do not go away. Do not go away from Krishna's lotus feet. One time a devotee asked me, he said, I want to know your ultimate realization in Krishna consciousness. What's the deepest thing? And I said, do not ever leave. Do not go away. Or as we used to say in the old days, don't bloop. Don't bloop. And he looked at me, is that all you got? And then he blooped. I said, he didn't listen. I tried to tell him, do not go away. Just continue patiently hearing, just like our good friend Alan. He does not go away, but he comes and he patiently hears and stays in the association of devotees, even though it sometimes goes against his rigorous intellectual training. Still, he does not go away. All right, so we'll stop here. Now we'll have the Arti and the Kirtan. There's not really time for questions. I went over. I'm sorry about that. And then we'll see you on the other side for Prashadam. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada.